Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
From multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass right there.
We are not going for fame and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast. Welcome back. This is episode 6 of The Operator. I wanted to start today by telling you that stress is in your head. Stress is a choice. Stress is a bag of bricks that sits by your bed. It's right there in the morning when you wake up, and if you decide to, if you want to, you can pick stress up, put it over your shoulder, and let it weigh you down. It's unnecessary, but you can start your day off with stress, with a negative attitude, ruin everyone else's day around you. Or, at any time, and you should try this, you can put stress down and forget about it. Just by thinking about forgetting about it, you can get rid of stress. Stress is a choice. Stress is in your mind. It's like guilt. What's the point of guilt? That play is over. Learn from it and move on. Learn from your mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. I mentioned in my last podcast that failing is never quitting, but quitting is always failing. That's the truth. If you did something, you messed something up, believe me, I've messed stuff up. Learn from it and then get over it. Try to never do it again. Just by feeling guilty about something in the past is never going to happen because, like we always say, time keeps moving forward. Stress is a choice. So speaking of stress, the Air Force is going to cut funds for a lot of their special operators. I'm not sure if you're reading about this. They're saying for a lot of PJs, the pararescue guys who are basically combat trauma guys, paramedics that we go with us that save people's lives when they get shot, guys that test parachutes, guys that are badasses, know how to tie ropes and climb mountains, mountaineers, all that stuff. They're looking at like a 75% to $450 a month pay cut. Some of them $900 to $5,400 a year, which is quite a bit because when you're in the Navy, in the military, you're pretty much working paycheck to paycheck, and they ask a lot out of you. I know dudes that were mowing their own lawns and then got called to go rescue Richard Phillips from Somali pirates in off the coast of Africa, just like that. But now they're talking about cutting pays because they're saying with this inflation that we can't get rid of, we need to get more money. So the government's basically in charge of the inflation. The inflation's happening even though there's the Inflation Reduction Bill or law that went into play, and all that did was spend more money. Basically, if you're in Washington and you're a politician, spend more money and it'll just throw money at the problem. It'll be fall. They've actually selected that members of the military get on food stamps. I don't know if you know a lot of military people, especially special operators like PJs, like the combat controllers, the dudes that call in bombs, the TAC-Ps. They're not the types that they are going to go out there and they're going to run until their feet bleed, and they're never going to quit. They're not the type of guys to go get food stamps because that's just a handout when they can earn it, when they're working harder than more people out there anyway. So we're asking our combat veterans, our current enlisted guys to take pay cuts, yet for some reason we have a blank check for Ukraine. And I don't think we can exactly explain where it's going to Ukraine, where the money is going. They're asking, defense trade groups are asking for continuing resolutions because they said that the inflation alone is costing the Pentagon $6 billion a month. And whatever they're spending it on, Problems persist because inflation exists in the face of record inflation. And I know a lot of people, bitch about this. Is a big deal to cut pay. Yes, it's special pay, and yes, it wasn't always there, but now you're used to it. And I thought in the government, if you're used to it, you're just supposed to keep getting it. That's why they justify budgets. You need to spend at least as much as you did last year, if not more, because when the fiscal year rolls around, we need to spend this much money because I need to have my stuff. And again, it goes back to personal power. It also goes back to Washington fucking everything up with money, because at the end of the line, you know someone who can do it for you. We all have jokes about each other, and I think there's a difference between bitching and whining. Because I used to bitch a lot, but I didn't like to whine. You can bitch about stuff, how much it sucks, but it's all in the matter of you saying, this sucks. That's whining. Or this fucking sucks is bitching. So, but anyway, the point I'm getting at is that I think the branch that bitches the least is the Air Force. So I don't know why they're picking on the Air Force, but I am going to share a quick joke, and if you heard it, just hear it again, and then maybe you can comment that I told it wrong. But because Marines get shit gear, they still have. That was their own fault. Marines didn't want to get more budget because that would have to say some Marines are more special than others, and Marines always want to say that every one of the Marine Corps is a rifleman, which is true, but you got to play the game if you want to get the budget. But Marines really still do a great job with hand-me-downs from the Army. The Army bitches, the Navy, God, yes, the Navy bitches for a good reason. Imagine if you're on a ship and you're painting or you're chipping paint that's gray, and then you paint over the chip with gray, and then you paint over the paint with the gray. I'd bitch too, but we all have jokes about each other. And an Air Force joke that I love is there's a Ranger, an Army Ranger, and a Navy SEAL, and an Air Force dude, and they are in a survival / like a survival, evasion, resistance, escape. It's a prisoner of war type school, and the instructor comes in one day and says, "All right, pop quiz, guys. You're in your tent, and a scorpion comes in. What do you do?" And he looks at the Ranger, and the Ranger says, "Well, I kill the scorpion, because now I can eat it and I have protein, and that gives me strength to escape, to run, or to fight if I have to." And the instructor's like, "That's good. Navy SEAL, scorpion comes in your tent. What do you do?" And the Navy SEAL says, "Well, I like what the Ranger's saying. That's cool, but I think I'm going to try to get a better angle on the scorpion so that when I step on it, I don't hurt his stinger. So now I have a weapon. I can fight the guards with that. I can maybe kill something else with that. And I have the protein from the scorpion. I can eat it." Then he said to the Air Force guy, "Your turn. You're in your tent and a scorpion walks in. What do you do?" And the Air Force guy goes, "Well, the first thing I do is I go to the phone and I call the concierge and I ask him, why the fuck is there a tent in my suite?" But a lot of problems there with spending are there because of inflation and because we've never known how to keep a book. It's always, you got to keep your budget. You got to keep your budget the same so you keep getting the money, so your pet projects keep coming, so you can maintain your power. And the money we're sending to Ukraine, it's to stabilize their economy. It's to help with their banks. Very, very vague wording, and it doesn't just happen right now. I mean, yes, it costs money to make Patriot missiles and all that stuff, but stuff you'll see, it's 24 to 36 months down the line where they might be getting it or they might not get it, knowing that each fiscal year people are pretty much going to forget about what we spent last fiscal year because we're very good at auditing our citizens. We just, hired 87,000 new IRS agents when we probably could have put armed security in schools. Yeah, it's neither here nor there, but it takes years to integrate and there's no oversight. And that's just how it works because, and I've said this before and I'm going to keep getting into it, that we're capitalists and we have people getting into politics to make money. And that's just the way it works. It's one thing in the UK where they have a royal family and the royal family is just a sign of that's a royal family, but they're not the lawmakers, right? Our lawmakers are here and we're designed as a constitutional republic to have elected representatives that represent their districts and senators who are supposed to go in and debate here and there and they send stuff to the White House to get signed into law. That's how it should work. Well, if it's bipartisan. Now we're at a point where they won't even work with each other. Republicans won't work with Democrats and vice versa. That's why we actually need more veterans. If they're getting cut, their pay getting cut, they should be running for Congress. If we get veterans into office, that would be better, because a vet will get into the same room and debate something out and do what's right. The realization that you're not going to get everything you want, but you're going to get something. Everyone's going to come out of it winning. And hopefully, I think they would be smart enough to get rid of all the pork that they always say they're getting rid of. And pork is just stuff we add at the very, very end. When they give you 20 minutes to read 80,000 pages, there's pork in there going to their district so they being politicians, can have bridges and buildings built with their name on it, because who wouldn't want a bridge built after them on the taxpayer's dime? That's you. But I'm going to give you sort of an idea of how I've mentioned that we're not supposed to be a monarchy. But if you've noticed, there has been people kind of just around the D.C. area all the time, and it's the same names. And there's always been a conflict, too. We've always really had something going on. I think President Trump was the only one to not start a war. He also didn't take a paycheck. People don't ever bring that up. But we'll start with the royal family of politics, and that's the Bush family. And I want to caveat the Bush family with, I think that George W. Bush handled 9/11 great at first. He did a really wonderful job. Went to New York. I actually have a tattoo on my arm, the quote, and I said this in my head on the flight to Osama bin Laden's house. His words really meant a lot to me. Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended. And that is a rally point right there. That's why we say I don't want another 9/11, but I would love another 9/12, because of that attitude. And when President Bush went out to Yankee Stadium and just zipped that dart off the mound, opening pitch, the World Series, and he crushed it wearing a bulletproof vest. He had body armor on and crushed that. And it's like, he owned a baseball team, and he probably warmed up in the back, but a lot of people take that serious. I know people that I've done it before, and I've put it in the dirt in Arizona, did put it over the plate in Fenway, no big deal. But people stress about the first pitch. Imagine being the commander-in-chief at a time like that where, you got to figure 9/11 just happened, and it's kind of on you. Symbolism, you got to throw a strike. And he got out there and zipped it. And he did also. I met him once, and he's a genuine guy. He seemed very nice, and he did write a handwritten letter to me, mentioning how it meant something to him that I were saying his words, and then I got the tattoo. So I need to caveat that with that. But I'm going to go back as we talk about a monarchy, because the Bush family is known as one. They call them political royalty. It started with. The dad, Prescott Bush, fought in World War I, artillery officer, Wall Street banker. So, just awesome. That's cool. Great. And then one of his sons was President George H.W. Bush, who was President George W. Bush's father. He has a badass story, because he fought in World War II, which is awesome. And I love getting into a little bit of cool history, because I want to stay as positive as I can, and I don't like to just bring negativity into everything. And I've said some stuff before that's on a whim or on Twitter that it seems like I'm a dick, and I don't want to do that. George H.W. Bush, his story is pretty badass. He enlisted in the Navy as a seaman during World War II, and this is in 1942. And so he went to the Pacific, but he became a pilot like in a year, and he was the youngest fighter pilot in the U.S. Navy at 20 years old, and he was on a torpedo bomber in World War II on the USS San Jacinto. That's the CVL-30, and we had our little ship lesson a while back. CVL is a carrier, aircraft carrier, lightweight, 30, and so he was on there, youngest pilot in the Navy, torpedo bomber, and they would fly with in his torpedo bomber, the jet or the plane. They would fly with the captain of the ship, the pilot, and then the radio guy, and then a gunner on your plane, because you're flying in World War II. And they were going, so they're fighting right around near Iwo Jima, in the islands. They're fighting in the islands of the Pacific. Heavy fire everywhere. There's everything from war on land, obviously. Chichijima was a place too that they were bombing. So you got guys on the ground, bombers in the air. surface ships and submarines fighting. So I don't care who you are, you're in combat. If you're a mess cook on a ship, you're in combat, because if we sink in a sub, we're all going to die just the same. Doesn't matter what you look like. But they were flying in, and Bush's normal Lieutenant Junior Grade Bush's normal gunner wasn't going to go because a junior officer was an intel officer, wanted to go with him, and he figured he could handle the gun, which is fine. I mean, as we all know, if you're enlisted, don't give an officer a gun. But he was on there, so he went with a new gunner, went with a radioman, and they started getting heavy fire on the way in. It was nasty fire, and they did get shot down. So on the way down, the procedure, and I don't want to screw this up, but the procedure is, when you're the gunner, it's too small of a space to wear a parachute, so the other guy is supposed to hand you a parachute, and you can put it on and then bail. I mean, you're bailing, so that is procedure. That's safety procedure, and that's shit you got to pay attention to. That's why you got to master the basics wherever you are, and pay attention. Pay attention, because life can change dramatically in the blink of an eye. Think about this. How many times have you been on an airplane, a commercial airline? Probably a lot. How many times have you actually listened to the safety brief? Safety brief? Probably not. Just close your eyes right now. Can you open the emergency door on the starboard side? Probably not. There's definite directions, and you have to know how to open that thing on a water landing. You want to get that open, and you're supposed to get out and help people out. Stand on the wing. People have died in the rivers around New York on helicopters because it sets down and the thing rolls because the weight's on top of a helicopter, and the pilot lived, but the people in the back didn't because they didn't pay attention to how do I get this harness off of me. And when you panic, which you've all seen, you have a tendency to move too fast when you know you should breathe and slow down. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The point is, you got to know your procedures. You got to know safety, and you need to. One of my favorite sayings is actively participate in saving your own life. Don't go to the corner and lay frozen, dying of shame when the active shooter comes in. What are you going to do about it? Do something. I had a skydive instructor tell me, if I burn in on the drop zone, burn in means if I just burn in, if you walk out to my body and every single thing, every single ripcord or cutaway or pillow or pilot chute is not pulled, just pee on me and leave me there. Actively participate in saving your own life. Know the procedures and realize you don't get chaos when it's convenient. So they did get shot down. So we're back to Lieutenant George H.W. Bush, his new gunner, who's an intel officer. And the intel officer is on there because he just wanted to look at the island, like map making or whatever. And, it's a ballsy call. Intel officers don't need to be right there. He did ballsy. And the radio guy. Well, one guy couldn't make it out. And later in the debrief, Lieutenant J.G. Bush couldn't say who it was. Bush made it out and had a parachute. The other guy jumped to 1,200 feet. And he didn't live. So I'll leave it at that. Did he get his parachute on? Did he know the emergency procedures? Later, the normal gunner was the one explaining the procedures, and he said, I wish I could have been on that because I think I could have gotten everyone their parachutes. But that just sucks. But that was President George H.W. Bush in the Navy, shot down. Now he's in the middle of the ocean in the Pacific alone, and he was alone for a while, which right there can be scary. Maybe if you're getting shot down or shipwrecked, it's not that bad of a deal to get killed right away because you don't need to live with being shipwrecked, which could suck because it's hot in the Pacific. And even though there's water everywhere, there's not a drop to drink. You drink the salt water, and guess what? It's going to dehydrate you more. You're going to drink your own pee eventually, and then what do you eat? You start eating the least important parts of your body. Horrifying. Well, and the sharks are going to get you, or you're just going to die, all that horrible stuff. But he was out there, and he finally was spotted by a submarine, a U.S. sub, the Finback, which was SS-23. And he said he saw it coming to him, and he said, well, that's a beautiful sight, and I really hope that's one of ours, which just tells you about his sense of humor. And he went on the Finback, and he actually made a very poignant point when he said getting shot down it really showed me the tragedy of war. I'm kind of just spitballing here, but something like the tragedy of war. But when he got on the Finback, there were other pilots that had been shot down from different carriers on different airplanes, and they were on the Finback too. And he said he went from floating in the island by himself to being in the wardroom and, having your water and food, and like there's a record playing, and then they would stand the watch. He said his favorite watch was what we call balls to 4. And that's midnight to 04. And they would actually, when they would rise up to the surface, you could see the sun rise and the waves going over the front of the sub. And you go from the complete destruction and violence and noise of war to looking at the Pacific in the morning. And he just said it did something, it sort of described war for him. So, I mean, that's a hell of a story. I never met him, but he turns out, I guess that's a hell of a guy. He had 126 carrier landings, and I'm not a pilot, but if I knocked out one, I think it's pretty good. And I guess he had 1,228 flight hours. So he was a military guy, fought in World War II. That's badass. He got into Congress in 1966. He was elected to Congress. He was appointed the ambassador to the UN. He led the CIA, and then he was the vice president for 8 years under Ronald Reagan. So that is, 1966 to 1988 until he became the 41st president of the United States until 1992. So there's a guy in office is the point I'm getting at. So the Bush family's been in there for a long time. They're since back in the day. And also during his time as president, you'll notice didn't really invade, but Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. And that was because they were saying that you'll start to notice here that oil becomes relevant to a lot of the stories and a lot of the shit that goes down in this country. So Saddam Hussein, who also was pretty relevant in a lot of stuff, was saying that Kuwait, very, very rich oil nation in the Middle East, was using these drills that went down at an angle across the border, and they were stealing Iraqi oil, which probably is bullshit. But we know that Saddam invaded Kuwait. Support for the operator is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, has arrived, and so you can join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. Get 20% off and free worldwide shipping using the code THEOPERATOR at manscaped.com. And with joining 6 million men, if my math is correct, that is just about 12 million balls. I remember when we used to do this, I would borrow trimmers from somebody, and they were always shocked when I returned them, but my beard was still there. Obviously, I was using it somewhere else, and the guy that I borrowed them from was like, well, I was going to tell you before, too, I don't just use it on my beard either. But those weren't designed for downstairs, and sometimes you get nicks or you get little cuts or some chafing, and then you're walking around for about a week looking like some short dude is following you around, hitting you with a blowtorch. But not anymore. The Performance Package 4.0 has arrived, and it is a game changer. In this package, you'll get the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker Aaron Nose trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to keep all your goodies in it. This is new technology. The 4th generation trimmer has ceramic blades to reduce accidents when you're grooming, and it's waterproof so that you don't need to worry about making a mess on your bathroom floor or for someone else to clean up for you. And cleaning is very, very simple. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin life technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose holes and ear holes. This is all for your delicate parts of your body. And I don't care if your partner has ever told you it's not a big deal to be groomed down there. You should be groomed down there. And also with the ball deodorant, keep everything fresh, keep your spirits up, morale high, keep your partner happy. So if you go to manscaped.com, you'll get 20% off, like I said, free shipping with the code THEOPERATOR. Unlock your confidence, and you can look out for Big Jim and the twins. And like I've always said, when you cut the grass, the house looks bigger. So Saddam's taking his people into Kuwait, who is not a big military force, and his troops are going nuts over there. They had been at war for a long time with Iran. Again, same names, Iraq, Iran, were fighting basically to a stalemate, killing each other. So Saddam's troops, they know the brutalities of war, and they also know the loots, the booty, if you will. So Saddam's troops are now in Kuwait, and they're jealous of the Kuwaitis, so they're ransacking, stealing, raping, bad stuff. So we decide we send troops over to, again, same name, Saudi Arabia, for what we called Operation Desert Shield. So now we're going to be there as a deterrent. George H.W. Bush is the president. George H.W. Bush is the president, and we got to get into who his Secretary of Defense was. So I'll come back to Desert Shield, which turned into Desert Storm, but I need to keep talking about the same names who were in politics. We're going to go to a guy by the name of Dick Cheney. And Dick Cheney, I again, trying to be nice, I guess. Dick Cheney apparently is not known as being a nice guy. I had a SEAL tell me a story that during Desert Storm, he was somewhere and he's walking through a hangar and he saw some Navy SEALs, and I guess he walked up to them kind of like this and said, "Huh, you're the Navy SEALs? That's cool." And he walked away. And then I guess a Secret Service guy came up to and said, come up to the SEAL team and said, "Hey, thanks, guys. You just made our day. We haven't seen the vice president laugh that hard ever." So anyway, Dick Cheney's thing, he's another career politician guy. When he got out of school, he realized he didn't fit in school, whatever his words were. He did manage to get 5 deferments because he was a Vietnam age. He's a war hawk, but didn't fight. So 5 deferments, that's a lot for whatever reasons they want to say now. He didn't go to Vietnam. He did go to Washington. He became an intern in the White House. He for both Presidents Nixon and Ford. He was the chief of staff at the White House from 75 to 77. He did get elected to Congress in 1978. He was the Secretary of Defense in 2000 for Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the oil. And then later on, he did become the vice president of the United States. So that's 8 years, 2 terms as vice president. You know what he did in between, though? This is very interesting. In between being the Secretary of Defense and then getting back in the White House as the vice president, he was the CEO of a company called Halliburton. And during the second, they call it the second Iraq War, but it's the actual Iraq War, Halliburton managed to get $39.5 billion in government contracts. And I know we throw the word billion around nowadays a lot and doesn't seem like much, but for your company that you're the CEO of to get $39.5 billion in contracts, and like when I was in Iraq, each time I was in Iraq, and a lot of vets can agree with me, everywhere you look, there's Halliburton. Halliburton's doing all the jobs. Halliburton's doing all the cooking. They're putting up all the HESCOs. I want to know who Mr. HESCO was, too. HESCOs are the huge sandbags. They're full of sand, surrounded by like wire, and they're much. It's easier than filling sandbags by hand like you see in the Vietnam movies. They just bulldoze these things, fill them with stuff, and they work really good. And the HESCOs took over the defense industry as far as defending us on base. And I bet the sandbag family was pissed because they thought they had that market cornered. Anyway, he was the CEO of Halliburton. Halliburton made a shit ton of money, and being a career politician from 1978 up until 2008. And having a net worth yourself of $86 million, it's not a bad gig. So there was that. So he was the Secretary of Defense when we when we went over to Saudi Arabia to help the Iraqis. And we did fight the Iraqis in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, which you might remember in the early 90s. And that was a success up to a point. Now, here's what gets really interesting. This is around the time that there was a dude around, and his name was Osama bin Laden. I bring him up once in a while. Osama bin Laden was the head of Al-Qaeda, which means the base. We had been helping them defeat the Russians, same names, in Afghanistan. Same names. Afghanistan, obviously, the graveyard of empires. But bin Laden, we were sending money, whoever, Charlie Wilson's war, whoever's getting it, we're sending Stinger missiles to shoot down the Russians, kind of like we're doing right now to shoot down the Russians. A lot of government contracts being spent, a lot of people getting paid, a lot of side room deals, back room deals, shit like that. Anyway, bin Laden's over there and they defeat the Mujahideen. They defeat the Mujahideen, and Mujahideen means army of God. We would shorten it to Muj because you don't want to, whatever. It just sounded cool. Not to make them cool, but that's what we said. He's got the army, and he actually said bin Laden was from Saudi Arabia, as were 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11. Saudi Arabia, same names, weird. And he said with his army of the Mujahideen, he can defend them against Saddam. He'll just put his army there, but someone convinced someone that the United States needs to be there. That really pissed off bin Laden. He hated us before, even though we helped him in Afghanistan, and then he declared a fatwa, which is basically a holy war. And bin Laden said that killing Americans, civilians, women, it's all justified under that. So that was that at first. So that's reason for bin Laden to be very angry with us. And then we helped Kuwait. We helped liberate Kuwait with our Air Force, and it was a 100-hour war, 200-hour war, where we just crushed them with our tank guys. We realized how awesome our tank crew is. We showed the world what our army can do when we let our army be our army. And those tanks went after Russian-made tanks in Iraq and just fucked them up so bad that they had Iraqi soldiers, the elite Republican Guard were surrendering to film crews, which I think is crazy. The air crew was crushing them. It was so good. The highway of death, they called it. The guys were retreating to Baghdad. Was so bad that I guess President Bush 41 saw it, and it was so brutal that he actually stopped doing it. And he said, well, now, and we'll have to get into this later, but Saddam being a Sunni, the Shiite could rise up in Iraq, and so could the Kurds in the north, and then you can defeat Saddam. We did our job, and everyone will be happy. And that's how politicians think about wars, and completely fucked it up because Saddam took over and just ran over the Shia and the Kurds. And we're talking shit where cameras aren't there, so we don't know what's happening. But if you think about it, you know what's happening. And so President Bush actually left Saudi. Well, we never left Saudi Arabia. We're there the whole time, but we left Iraq. Big victory. There was like a parade or some bullshit. But we did such a bad job finishing it because, again, we don't know how to finish a war that Bush actually lost his re-election bid to a guy by the name of Bill Clinton. Here's a name you're going to hear again, Clinton. So Bill Clinton won, and then because of the military-industrial complex, we had all kinds of stuff going on. We all know what happened in his second term with an intern named Monica Lewinsky. That was bad, so we decided we better bomb Kosovo and mess up the Serbs, because that we'd have to buy and pay for more planes and missiles and troops and lodging and galleys and chow halls and all that good stuff. So someone's getting a contract, someone's getting rich, so we're bombing there. But if you back up, a lot of people don't know this. Right around 1993, President Clinton authorized some cruise missile strikes on Iraqis because they said the Iraqis were trying to assassinate his predecessor, President H.W. Bush. So you got Clinton's, Bush's, Cheney's involved. What if I told you that food shortages are no joke? They're coming soon. That's why I strongly encourage you to get some emergency food. It stays fresh for the day you need it, even years from now. With everything falling apart in America and around the world, I urge you to get your emergency food today by going to preparewithrob.com. You'll find a $250 savings on a Ready Hour 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is America's largest and most trusted preparedness company. They've served millions of your fellow citizens. Right now, you'll save $250 on a 3-month kit with tasty breakfasts, delicious lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks that give you over 2,000 calories a day. Get one kit for every member of your family and save $250 each. Your orders ship fast and they ship free. When you're ready for real preparedness, Look for Ready Hour Foods with My Patriot Supply. Go to preparewithrob.com. That's preparewithrob.com and save $250 on your emergency food kit. Preparewithrob.com. So, we have powerful people protecting powerful people. A lot of people are getting paid, and there's a lot of the same names, a lot of war hawks. Lots of war hawks out there. It was in 1993. So there was, after we won Desert Storm, President George H.W. Bush made a trip to Kuwait, and there was allegedly an assassination attempt on him with a, they were going to use a vehicle, and they had explosives in it. They were going to kill him. It was RDX was the explosive they were using, I believe, which is odd, but because that's some shit we would use. But they did, they got 12 confessions from 12 dudes, approximately 12 dudes, who said, yeah, we were going to kill him, but they didn't. And then it's like one of those stories where you say, yeah, here's this time I almost died. Well, actually, I didn't even get hurt, but there I was, no shit. So these guys confessed. They were released, and then they said, well, no, we confessed because we were getting tortured by somebody. And then they went back, and then President Clinton in 1993 launched cruise missiles at them, and it killed between 8 and 12 people in Baghdad. They said they were targeting their intel places because someone had tried to make an assassination attempt on President Bush. So we got we're working with the same names here. We heard Cheney before. The Clintons now. The Clintons they did 2 terms, bombed Bosnia. Hillary Clinton was around since she was learning about the impeachment process since Watergate. And so she's there. She, an attorney, you've heard of her, married to the governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, and then she was the first lady in the White House for 8 years. She became a senator in the United States, ran for president a few times, basically a head of the State Department, the top diplomat. You're working the government for a long, long time, run for president a few times, senator, and then it makes sense that you're worth $120 million. So there's a lot of money. I'm not going to say too much about Hillary Clinton because I like my show. So you got the names, and so we got we're going to get into me getting to SEAL Team 6, but how some people got to where we got because it was supposed to stay that way. It was Bush as a vice president with Reagan, then Bush as president, then Bill Clinton. And then even though there was the 2000 election with Al Gore and George Bush, who the hell knows how they run elections? It was Bush again. Then it's supposed to be Hillary Clinton as president, but this dude came out of nowhere, and his name's Barack Obama. So he took the reins, no problem. Hillary will be next after Barack Obama because she's not going to run against Barack Obama for a number of reasons. But then out of nowhere comes Donald Trump. And for some weird reason, these families hate him now. The Cheneys hate him. The Clintons hate him. The Bushes hate him. Remember, what was he calling Jeb Bush? He had nicknames for everybody, but he was so bad to Jeb Bush. They really don't like him because Jeb Bush it was either going to be Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush, Clinton Bush, Clinton Bush. That's how it was supposed to go. But he kept calling him low energy Jeb, and he kind of embarrassed Jeb Bush when he was obviously the next nominee for the Republican Party. And there's that famous scene of Jeb Bush so embarrassed where he said something at a rally and said, well, you're supposed to clap. And that's the end of it there. So Trump becomes president, and then if you look at it, it's almost like, okay, so George W. Bush had Dick Cheney for 8 years as his vice president. He was prior to that. He was the SecDef for Desert Storm, and then Barack Obama has Joe Biden, and you can see in interviews Barack Obama would say, well, he would want a nominee to be someone sort of a puppet so that he could push him around, maybe get a third term, something like that. And I'm not suggesting a conspiracy theory there. I'm just saying what people say, what's on tape. Stuff like that. And then, Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the president, but Donald Trump beat her, and she's still talking about that. But if you've noticed, she's kind of coming back around again. So same names in politics. And we're always talking about how we need new blood. We need something new. Well, we have old people up there. What's the saying? It's not the person in the White House for 4 years that's the problem. It's the person who's in the Capitol for 50 years that's the problem. So if you look back now, and we're going to talk about 9/11, obviously I was just down there the other day, I went to Cantor Fitzgerald, who basically lost their entire office on 9/11. It was the first plane hit their office. It's always very touching to go down to Lower Manhattan, especially on the anniversary. This was the 21st anniversary of 9/11, and that's real. It happened, and it's tough. When we were attacked on 9/11, I was at SEAL Team 2 in Germany. I've told that story. But watching the towers fall, I was in an operations center on the TV watching them fall, then seeing the smoke out of the Pentagon, then hearing of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, which to me is the most amazing story, Flight 93, United 93, where the first Americans to really fight Al-Qaeda to the death toe-to-toe were those people on that plane, those passengers that were simply flying across the country. And then the next thing, like I said, life can change in the blink of an eye. Everything you know can change in the blink of an eye. Everything that matters to you doesn't matter anymore. Right now matters, and they voted. They talked to each other. They voted. They pulled the American Democratic way. They voted. They fought Al-Qaeda. They saved the Capitol. And that's a good thing. So I was a Navy SEAL, and I knew my life just changed. I knew all of our lives just changed. Not just me, not just my SEAL team, not my platoon, the entire military. The Air Force is about to get really busy. The Green Berets are about to fuck some people up. We're about to do... Where do you want us? Are we going to Sudan? Fine. Are we going to Afghanistan? Fine. Where are we going? What are we going to do? Now, there are people that were working in the White House that said not long after 9/11, the president and his national security team were drawing up plans to invade Iraq. There were people in the White House that couldn't believe what they were hearing. President Bush called Tony Blair a few days after 9/11 and was saying how Iraq was involved, and they were talking about how Tony Blair was perplexed, how they're going to try to make that work. He talked to heads of state. He had the King of Jordan, I think, on the Truman balcony over there, and he was explaining to him how that it had to be Al-Qaeda associated with Saddam Hussein, how they were together. Ambassador Prince Bandar bin Sultan came to the White House to see President Bush, and the meeting took place. This is where the Truman balcony was. And they said that there's no way that Saddam Hussein is involved with Al-Qaeda. They didn't have anything to do with 9/11. That proved to be right. But the Bush administration is we're going to go into Iraq. We're going to invade Iraq. And if you think about it, it was the Iraqis that tried to assassinate his father. And that's part of the reason that we went in. But I think a lot of people were taking advantage of the way we all felt after 9/11. Someone's going to pay. We went into Afghanistan off the bat, and we beat the shit out of them. We, being the Special Forces guys, the CIA, and the Air Force, beat the shit out of them. They killed a bunch of guys. They damn near got bin Laden off the bat in Tora Bora, pushed them into Pakistan, where we prove we don't know how to win a war because that's where the enemy goes. And then for some reason, we decided we're going to rebuild Afghanistan. But we still need to kick more ass. We beat them too quickly. The ground zero is still smoldering. We need revenge. This is the perfect opportunity to get rid of Saddam Hussein. So that's what we did. And that's what I felt like doing, because at the time, I think I might have been 27 or 28. I'm a Navy SEAL, and I'm ready to fight. Everyone here is ready to fight. We're going to fight. I was at SEAL Team 2. We switched to SEAL Team 4, and all that meant is that the guys from SEAL Team 2 literally walked across. The way the buildings were set up were SEAL Team 2 was a building on one corner, then SEAL Team 8 was right by that, then SEAL Team 4 is over here, and they're building SEAL Team 10. The guys from SEAL Team 2 and 4 literally crossed each other's paths, and the guys from 4 became Team 2, the guys from 2 became 4. SEAL Team 4 used to go to South America, SEAL Team 2 to Europe. We're all going to eventually go to Afghanistan, but we switched over there, went there. SEAL Team 4 was decent. It was fun, shitty buildings. We did a deployment. We thought we were going to get in on the invasion of Iraq, and again, it is justified. I don't care if it's not justified because we're going to fight. We were on a couple ships. We were going to go in with the Marines through Turkey, but we had a problem in Liberia, so we had to turn around there. Swim into Liberia and do a hydrographic reconnaissance. There was shooting in there, but it's a civil war. They're trying to get rid of their president. Our friends are in Iraq having an invasion. They said it's unbelievable to invade a country. We want to get there. I think I'm going to miss the war in Iraq. It's going to be over really soon. I got to get to Afghanistan. I did have orders to go to SEAL Team 6 after this deployment. So we did our Liberia thing where we swam in. That's where that picture of me with the big dip on the beach, I was actually looking for. I was looking out on the left flank, holding security. Our guys did a hydrographic reconnaissance, a real world mission when other guys are rolling through southern Iraq and killing people. The only cool thing about that the hydrographic reconnaissance is when we were on a ship and we had. I always say pay attention to the simple stuff, the basics. One thing I never paid attention to was the dangers from marine life, because I'm a big believer that if something in the water is going to get you, your time is just up, so stop worrying about it. But they mentioned to us that we're going to be swimming off the coast of West Africa, so basically every man-eating shark you can think of is going to be out there. There shouldn't be this high up, this far north, but you could run into saltwater crocodiles. They're man-eaters, 20 feet long. I hope we don't run into hippos. There shouldn't be any here again, but hippos kill more people in the world than anybody. And then here's where you're going to be landing, and it's called Black Mamba Point. The reason it's called Black Mamba Point is there's a lot of black mambas. They'll kill you. So that's about as dangerous as it got. When we flooded the well deck of that, I think it was it the LaSalle? It was something. It was a ship. When we flooded it, there were hammerheads out there. Like, some would swim up near and into the ship, and it's like, wow, this is going to be a fun daytime hydrographic reconnaissance. But that's as close as I got to combat on that deployment. Went back. Guys are still fighting in Iraq. We're getting word of some serious fight. A little bit of fighting in Afghanistan. Obviously, at the beginning, they were killing it. And then I started Green Team selection to SEAL Team 6, and that was something. That was, in order to get to SEAL Team 6, you need to get approved by your conventional team to represent them, because they're sending the guys that hopefully will be their best. And you're putting your trident on the line when you're going to SEAL Team 6. There's no doubt about it. You're betting my trident that I will be at SEAL Team 6, or if I don't make it through selection, I'm going to be the guy known as the guy who couldn't make it through Green Team. So you get selected by your team, you go over there, and we have the first part is a really hard physical test. This is just to like maybe make it to Green Team, and the test is, I want to say it's 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 10 pull-ups, and then a 3-mile run in 21:30, and then an 800-meter swim, and I forget the time. But like, some guys didn't pass the run, which to me sucks. It's a 7:30 mile. You got to be able to run that. And you're running in shoes. Then they give you a psychological evaluation that cracked me up. That it was about 5,000 questions. I know it took a long time to do it. And you got a number 2 pencil in your hand, like at school, and you got to fill out these bubbles. And it's like the bubbles are marked 1 through 5, and it's based on behavior. So 1 is never. They'll ask you a question, no, I never feel like that. And then there's 2, and then 3 is seldom, and then like 4. And 5 is I always feel like that. And the questions make no sense. They're in no order. But some PhD came up with an algorithm to get in your head. I'll give you an example. Number 1, and they're not always questions. Number 1, you love roses. And you're like, yeah, man, 5, always. Everyone loves roses. Nailing this. Number 2, you want to decapitate kittens. You're like, shit, that escalated quickly. Seldom. Kittens, whatever. It took a long time to finish that test, a number of hours, and I asked the psychiatrist, what was the point of this test? And she said, oh, we're not trying to figure out if you're crazy. We're trying to figure out which flavor of crazy you are for placement. This is all after an oral board where this is actually where your reputation does matter, because during the oral board, they're handing your picture around to guys who are already there. We call it the second deck. That's where the shooters are at SEAL Team 6. And if someone doesn't like you, if they saw you pull some shit out at the bars, or an asshole, or they knew you from Team 2 and you didn't put out on the runs, and I know I was saying that you don't judge an operator by how fast he can run, but if someone didn't like the way you didn't run, if someone didn't like the way you did the bare minimum, I mentioned earlier that you don't need to do 100 when they ask for 42. Here you might want to. You want to put out as hard as you can, because you're going to be with the best of the best. And if someone gives you too many thumbs down and your reputation sucks, you might not even make it through that part. So you do that hard physical test another time, and that's a 3-week screening process. Then you get your cage, and you share it with someone else, and then you start Green Team. I think it's another hard physical test. And then Green Team usually is famous for starting off the day with at least a 10-mile run. Your average day is a 10-mile run, really fast. And it's still head games. I mean, we're all Navy SEALs, but now we consider ourselves some of us are old and broken, some of us are studs, but you start these really long runs at the, very, very early, pre-dawn runs, and then you get into the first. When I went through, the first part of selection was skydiving, and we were still coming up with tactics. So we would do jumps that were called line outs. So we went down to, well, it was kind of fun. The first week we actually went to Fort Bragg for the wind tunnel to get better at, a wind tunnel is obviously indoor skydiving where you can get better at keeping your body stable. And the reason you want to get good at keeping your body stable, if you ever do a real world combat jump, you don't want to be thinking about screwing up your exit. And exits are easy to screw up. Easier than you'd think to screw up. You want to be able to nail an exit wearing your gear. You don't want to, because it can lead to something worse. If you jump on a combat mission, especially in the mountains, and you tumble too far, then you have a bad parachute. You got to cut that. All of a sudden, you're way behind your stack. God forbid you land by yourself in Afghanistan hurt. You might be in for a long day, but a short life. So we did the wind tunnel, went to Marana, Arizona. We're doing line out drill, hay-hos, high altitude, high opening. Fall for a minute, pull your canopy and land. And we would work in groupings. We weren't quite to the point where we did eventually get at SEAL Team 6, where we're hiring canopy masters to teach us how to fly the canopies, how to fly in a stack. And a line out is just jump straight out and fall. And we do them at night, to the point where when you open together after falling, you don't want to hit each other. Jump all day, 5 or 6 jumps a day, which are combat jumps. That's a lot of stuff in between, packing your own parachute, making sure your gear's right, jump master safety inspections, all that good shit. We actually got, some of the night jumps were so spooky that we would go get steaks every night, be it Outback or Little Abner's in Tucson, just because this might be my last day on the planet, because it's just so fucking dangerous. A lot of jumps. We did very few hay-hos, but we got into hay-hos later in life. This is first part of selection. We're just doing jumps and making sure we know how to use the canopy, know how to read the winds, know how to get in a stack, and know how to land. And, obviously the 10 to 14 mile runs a day. So we would do that. And this is the first 3 weeks for us in selection. Then we went to Shaw's in Walls, Mississippi for CQB, close quarters battle. And that's the hardest part of Green Team. Green Team is known to have the best CQB in the world. And CQB is the hostage rescue style entry that you see on action movies, where they come in fast. We use fast in training to see how people can think. Are you the type of a person who can come into a situation, make a mistake instantly, but realize you have a job to do? Worrying about this mistake right now is not going to help. I'm going to keep going. And afterwards in the debrief, we can talk about that and I can learn from it. Or are you the person that comes into a situation, makes a mistake, and then you can't stop thinking about that mistake, even though it doesn't matter? And you dwell on that mistake. You can't get over that mistake. And because you're thinking about the mistake in front of you, over here to your left, you make a bigger mistake, and that's where they get you. And that's when you're fucked. And if you make a big mistake, they have different violations there. They have they call it LSA, which is a lack of situational awareness. There's a GLSA, which is a gross lack of situational awareness, safety violations. And if you're unsafe in there, they're looking for you. They're going to fire you quickly. And if you start getting smaller ones, the bigger ones add up, because they're punishing you for mistakes that you made. They're also punishing you in CQB for mistakes that you didn't make, to see how you handle making a mistake you didn't make in your head as you're doing tire drags in between house runs and everything like that. It's getting in your head. It's stressful. I got to a point one day, like I'm having 3 of the best runs in the day. Usually you're either doing house runs in the morning, have lunch, and then you're at the range shooting, which is awesome because now you're learning from actual shooting instructors, and it's low stress there. The high stress is in the house. But I remember, I think we did 4 runs in the morning. 3 were perfect for me. It's a Friday. It's awesome. We get the weekend off. We're going to go to Beale Street, have some drinks, and it's going to be great. But I screwed up so bad on the 4th one. They made me do another run, but they made me carry a broom because I'm too unsafe to have a gun. They're in my head. It's like, holy shit. I'm in Green Team, and I thought I was doing great. I might be gone. I might get kicked out. I might not make it to SEAL Team 6, and that's the head game, broom stuff, whatever. I got over it, made my way back up. There was a time, there was a run we did where I saw a guy get immediately fired. It was a corner-fed room at the end of a hallway. I was the number 1 man. No, I was the 2 man, because as we went in a corner-fed room, the 1 man went straight, which means I went to the right, but it's going down different walls. And the way this room is set up is I went to the right down a wall. The guy in front of me went straight. So that's 1 man. Here's 2 men. That's me. And in front of me are 3 stalls. The rest of the room is clear, but there's bathroom stalls. And my job is going to be to reach out, open a stall, a bathroom stall opens out. Usually it can, maybe not. And if there's a target, someone's going to shoot. Someone's going to identify the unknown. If it's a threat, it shoots. So it should be as simple as clear, next door. Clear, next door. Boom, boom. 2 to the head. Clear. But the way this went down, because the guy behind me, there was 1, I was 2, 3, number 4 man in the room was having a bad day. And he's on my wall with me. I reach out to my right and I pull that door open. There's a threat inside and he shoots right in front of my nose. Like I could feel the heat of live ammunition, because we go live in the house, right at this thing. He shoots and he shot twice, but not quick. It was boom, boom, almost as if, oh, I fucked up, but I better finish. So I just stopped. Nothing happened. And we kind of look around. I look up at one of the range safety officers, a guy who was that Blue Squadron that I knew from SEAL Team 2, and he looked down and he goes, I'm sorry, Nizro. I really should have blown my whistle on that one, but I was so afraid I swallowed it. So anyway, that got fired. That guy got fired. Haven't seen him since. But that's how quickly you get fired in CQB, and that's a very intense course. That part is 3 to 4 weeks, but you soon find out that you use CQB everywhere. We use it in military operations, urban terrain, obviously in CQB, but you're going to use it in houses. You're going to use it on ships, visit board, search and seizure, VBSS. You are using it after you climb. So then we get into other stuff. We get into, we do that. We do the heavy weapons training with vehicles. We're going to learn how to drive everything from Humvees to Panders. Because like I said, this is a selection course for SEAL Team 6. We're all Navy SEALs. We've all been there. This is a point where nobody is a new guy here. You are a newer guy. No one says the word meat. None of that shit. We get into the boats, the high-speed boats that we're going to use, the assault craft that are badasses. And that's another example of the military being really cool. Those boats look cool, really fucking suck. Because those are the boats that we jump out of the plane. Those are the ones you've seen on the video when we rescued Captain Phillips. We sent 4 of those boats out. They're awesome boats. I would love to have one. But, well, I don't know if it's just me or just Red Squadron, but it seemed like anytime we have those boats out, it's raining and it's choppy and it's shitty, which means you're flying. And that's why a lot of guys have bad backs, and a lot of boat guys are about 3 inches shorter than they were in high school because it's the constant compression. We get into that. We did the jumping. We did the CQB. It is a selection course, but it's more of a mental selection course to see how you can handle the stress. If we can make stress around you, are you the person who can admit the stress is in your head? Like I was saying at the beginning, stress is a choice. Can you get over it? That's it. And you'll hear me say this again and again in life. Whatever it is, get over it. Like when we were flying in to go get bin Laden, and we were flying out after getting bin Laden, we could have been shot down by a missile at any time. But we didn't think about it. You know why? It didn't matter if we thought about it. If the missile hits me, me thinking about it, I'm not a superhero. I just look like one. No, it's your thought. If you're worrying about something right now that your thoughts can't affect, you got to stop thinking about it. You got to get over it. You're wasting your energy. Concentrate on stuff you can affect. The same with the sharks. It's up to the shark. If the missile hits us, it's up to the missile. But that's what the stress course is in SEAL Team 6, the selection to get there. Because I've seen people do it. You get in a spot, something goes wrong, you think about that, you stress about the next one. Stop. Make your mental checklist, check them off in order of importance. If it's not important, don't do it. If it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. It just doesn't matter. That's how simple it is. And that's, I mean, it was not that. It was very, very detailed, very, very structured, but it's a different point where they can just shit can you. If someone doesn't like you, they shit can you. That's it. But you keep going. And what I did find, though, in Green Team, the selection to get to SEAL Team 6, I met the best operators in the world. I was so excited to work with these guys. They were so cool, man. Just cool dudes. Awesome at everything. Kick-ass jumpers. Kick-ass senses of humor. One cool thing about Green Team is you get your own jet. It's a JSOC jet. It's the general's jet because if you get to a certain level in the military, they give you your own jet because you're way too cool for school. And you got to have room for all the guys that carry your fucking luggage, right? So we would get our own jets and then, fly places with each other. Training was hard. Guys got kicked out. Guys got hurt, didn't make it. If you're good, though, they'll give you another shot. And then We're training. I did a kick-ass course up at Notre Dame. The first time I saw Touchdown Jesus was to work on Humvees, learn how they actually drive. They have driving courses to teach you how the Humvee's supposed to be driven. You're doing that training. The instructors don't necessarily slack off, but they do remind you that as soon as you're done with this, you're going to war with SEAL Team 6, and it's in the mountains. It's for real. And you're going to go to Iraq. And that's that. But I remember the day that we were at SEAL Team 6, and we had our cage area right by the green team office, and then the weight room was right behind us, and they had this cork board, and all they simply did was post who's going where. And you kind of walk over and you see your names, who's your boys you're going red team with. I wanted red team. I don't know why. I just did. Maybe it's my locks of hair that I used to have or whatever. And then some guys went to gold, some guys went to blue. And it was just cool because at that point I didn't give a shit where I went. I wanted to go to one of them. I wanted to get a patch because that's another rite of passage is you get your trident after such a long time and you are a Navy SEAL. Now you get your patch. And not everybody has a patch. Not everybody you've heard of was at SEAL Team 6. SEAL Team 6 is the only Tier 1 unit in the Navy. I remember being excited. I got to SEAL Team 6. I'm not making this up. I remember thinking, this is so cool. I'm going to get to work with Delta Force. I hope I get to meet the guy at Delta who kills bin Laden because that's just going to be awesome. It's going to be Delta. But that course, I made it sound easy. Some of the skydiving stuff I'll get into later. Some of the tactics we had to develop because we're constantly coming up with tactics because we really believe the worst thing you can say when you're running anything, when you're running a unit, when you're with your team at work, the worst thing you can say is, well, this is the way we've always done it. That's resting on your laurels, and you can't do that. Don't rest on your laurels. That's what causes complacency. Well, it's worked before. We're successful now. Complacency will get you killed. But that course, I think 50% of the guys didn't make it through, but the ones who did got there, and there we went. And then we went to Iraq. I'll tell Iraq stories later, but the point I was making with the beginning of this, and you'll hear it now, a lot of veterans are pissed off that we went to Iraq. I was talking about all the politics that get involved, the people in D.C. with great mustaches that are war hawks that have never even been fucking close to a battlefield. A lot of people making the calls to invade, but we never know how to get out. A lot of people were killed in Iraq. I killed a lot of people in Iraq. My first kill was in Iraq. A lot of my friends were killed in Iraq. A lot of people were killed in Iraq, got blown up for different reasons. And it all comes back to, I am a big believer in it doesn't matter why you're here. Right now, it doesn't matter why you're here. You're just here. So what are you going to do about it? Time's ticking, and that's fine because we got to a point in Iraq where, yes, we're killing, but I'm not killing for George Bush. I'm not killing because his father almost got assassinated. I'm killing because of the guy next to me because I'm going to watch his ass. He's watching mine. I'm killing because I'm going to go home. We're here to win right now because we're in the fight. It doesn't matter why. But looking back, did we really need to do that? No. Did we take our eye off Afghanistan? Yes. Did we fuck up Afghanistan? Yes. Did we fuck up Iraq? Yes. Are we still in Iraq and Afghanistan? A little bit. We still have Americans in Afghanistan. We're still fucking up Iraq. It's like the butterfly effect. One guy got pissed because one guy tried to kill another guy. Boom. Thousands of people are dead. It's one of the points, too, where there are guys I think of every single day that I kill. And I wondered, why did we kill each other? Well, because we were there. I killed him because he grabbed a gun. He grabbed a gun because I was in his room. We got in a fight. I killed him. Then you start to wonder, I wonder if he was funny. Would we have gotten along if I didn't meet him in Ramadi, but I met him in a coffee shop somewhere and we laughed about something? Maybe he told me a joke I didn't know. But here we are. I've said it before. We all have it in common. Every one of us, doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, time's ticking for all of us. Life can change in an instant, so make sure you give someone you love a hug every morning, every evening, and you're never out of the fight.